How do we get them to work better together as human beings? Because once, my theory is, inspired people take inspired action and they produce inspired results. Right? So how do you get that happening in an organization? Combining my science and my love of science, and now neuroscience, with my love of business and how to empower people, wow, that just doesn't get better than that. Going into my own business, that would really make me happy. And I discovered that Australia is way ahead of us, Americans, in really, having a lot more depth and reach in the neuroscience world and business. I mean, we have David Rock and we have the Neuro Leadership Program, but they started to move in a different direction. For me, whenever I was working, people usually call it the soft stuff, right? Which makes me insane. I just can't stand that because, there's the hard stuff that's important. And then there's the soft stuff. And I'm like, all there is soft stuff. Are you kidding? All there is human being, right? But it really bothered me. And I always knew that there was more science to it. But it's so hard to sell because there was no real science to it. So when the neuroscience came along, I'm like, oh my gosh. First of all, that gives me science to the soft stuff. Hallelujah, right? And, there was a little science, but not a lot. So now I've got science backing up the soft stuff. So now everybody just shut up because now I've got all the data. But more importantly, what it did is it takes everything that human beings have never been able to figure out. Like, why doesn't willpower work? Why is it that this keeps happening over and over again? Why can't I commit to something and then why do I make New Year's resolutions and it just doesn't work? All these things that we all know are because of human beings. It's not ourselves. Or we think it's ourselves, but it's really not. It's human being. And you start to discover when you examine the neuroscience of it, the brain and how the body works, there's really an explanation to it. And if you can start to look at how the brain functions and the design of the brain and the whole system, you actually get your hands on or your hands around how you can really impact these things that you've been struggling with for so long. Like there's a science to it. So there are so many things we've not been aware of to nurture our bodies, our brain, being agile, being resilient, all these things we need to do right now in the world to take care of ourselves, to be effective, to perform, that it's the perfect time to be doing this program to how do you empower people to really perform the way they need to perform and deal with life the way we need to deal with it. I do leadership programs. That's kind of a big thing I do inside of companies. So one of the things that we find is that a lot of people get promoted.
Right.
And they produce, we measure everything. So, they take on projects and then we measure return on investment. And, a big deal is that they shift the way they see things, right? Which means they can see more opportunities and they can take more risk because they're not limited by the way they used to see the world, which is only out of our own past, right? That's everything we see is through our own lenses, right? And so when you can recognize that the decisions you make are based on your past, and you can now make other decisions, then the world opens up, right? So we get amazing feedback on our programs because people are wide open and they can take chances and they can also work with people in a way that makes a difference because they can hear people. Well, first of all, yes. And second of all, because I think no matter what you do, I think this gives you insight into what, first of all, organizations are only people, right? I mean, people create processes, right? So it's always people. So, so the key is, how are you going to empower people, motivate people? It's all about people. So then therefore, what is it that I can get my hands around that would give me power with empowering others or coaching others or motivating others? And so it doesn't get more rich than understanding the brain. Whether you use any of this, which I think you should, but whether you use any of this is all secondary. It will give you a whole new way of relating to human beings that you can see how to impact it. And I think it's incredibly, I think everybody should do it just to understand how they tick and how to really understand and appreciate what's really going on there, rather than, they're being an idiot. No, they're not. So I think everybody should do it. And then all organizations should understand it. So you have some appreciation for human beings being human. So I think anybody who's committed to working with human beings should really do this program. And then, how do you fold it into your work is a whole different question.